Hello, I'm Clark Farley.
And I'm Denise Fasaro. We are live from Randall Realtors in Westerly, Rhode Island. This week on the 20-minute real estate briefing, we are going to answer some viewer questions.
Oh, I was wondering how
And
you're going to handle
you
that.
redid this, so I already
did.
said that. So we invite you to spend a little time as we share our insights
Did
and
she mention live?
experiences.
This
Yes,
is the live part.
tips and tactics acquired over quite a few years. Our goal, help you become a better buyer and a skilled seller.
Everyone out there knows that I totally admire your first intro
Even when I mess up.
passage. Yeah, well, you just got it. You got the rhythm down.
That's
Now,
because you wrote wrong words up.
I've got a passage that I always say, and I'll try not to do it as that badly. Prompted by the constraints of social distancing enabled by technology, these 20-minute real estate briefings embody the traditional practice of real estate while embracing the tempo of contemporary marketplace. And I have a note about the camera there. Our goal is simple. We're out to touch on as many situations and challenges that buyers and sellers encounter on their way to the closing table. We'll share our experience and insights. You take it from there. The fact that you're watching us tonight tells Denise and I you're the kind of client that most agents would really, really like to work with. You know, an informed and focused buyer. Totally. We're like those. Some weeks, though, on these briefings, we'll be talking sort of at the buyers. Other weeks, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers.
And sometimes both.
There's your line. Oh, let's do a sound check for our friends out there, and I'll move over to the comments.
We already have comments.
Oh, we've got comments. Okay. Hello, Martha Jane.
And Phyllis, hi.
Oh, I take it.
And they must be able to hear us.
Can you guys hear us okay?
All right. We got to stop asking that because I think we've done a few weeks now where we're heard.
Yeah.
So we are on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. So please remember to subscribe on YouTube. And if you do, you will have your heart's desire ring your doorbell. Okay, I said it, so I just won $1. If you have any suggestions for topics, please feel free to email us or leave us a comment here. And we're also on Instagram where we do Where in South County Are We? And if you're from the area, you might find that interesting to try to guess some of the landmarks that we post on Instagram. So, Clark, are we ready to now start with our questions, or do we have some more information?
Let's talk a little bit about this.
No, I don't really want to talk about that.
Okay, we don't talk about the selfie stick, but I had it as a prop, and I practiced with it. But that selfie stick I purchased with the idea of different things we'll be doing with the.
Once the market slows down a little and we have houses on the market for more than 10 minutes, we're going to be doing some tours. We'll take you through a house and show you some of the things that people look for when they're going to buy.
Or suggest to a first-time buyer the kinds of things to look for.
Right. Yeah. And also some suggestions for sellers on things that you might want to address before you put your house on the market.
Yeah, that's a real measure of the current market that Denise is accurate in saying that the things don't stay on the market long enough, even though I was actually thinking that we might consider doing a etiquette and protocol kind of tape of if you're going to one of these mass 15-minute only showings, you know,
how to get the best out of that 15 minutes.
Yeah. And
it's not a bad idea.
And that's kind of part of that. I don't like the expression new normal because I think it's a contradiction and it's a trick to think like that.
I don't think it's going to stay this way either. So it's not normal. It's abnormal.
Yeah. And but the idea of it's part of the pressure that is good for the seller, not necessarily so for the buyers.
Mm-hmm. So that will be a subject coming up. Please feel free to give us some ideas on other subjects that you might like to see.
Yeah.
And
also, when we get to a real regular market, we'll look at when we have inventory. Remind me to mention the inventory later. But the idea of houses staying on the market for any length of time, I've been kind of thinking it would be fun to do tours of properties that buyers can buy.
That's a good idea too. So
It's
you'll be able
two good ideas.
He's
Gotta make a
just
note
full
of
of
that.
them today.
Make a note. Make a note.
So we do have some questions from the viewers.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the questions we have was from a seller to be. Given the current market, why shouldn't I price my house high? My uncle Stephen told me that he heard from a neighbor whose brother sold his house for twice what the realtor said they should put it on the market for.
And they always do that, don't they? It's
Mhm.
the uncle for the neighbor, the guy at work
Right.
told them for sure
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
did that. And that's not so unreasonable a thought for a seller, thinking, well, they're throwing the money at property owners, but in reality there is a limit to where you're working against yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely, if a house is overpriced, it's still overpriced. So if you decide to add, $50,000 or $75,000 to your house because you hear the market is great, your house is going to sit there. And we have had houses sit there. There are houses that have sat and need to be reduced. So there is a limit, and buyers are smart. And, they may want something very badly, but they are not willing to pay too much over market price for it. So it is not the best idea to try to be greedy. Many houses are going over asking price, and many houses have 2 or 3 offers come in on them. But that's being driven by the buyer. Not if you're overpriced in the beginning, they're just not even going to come.
That's a good point in that it alludes to the concept of market value, that every house has a market value. The cool thing is that the average buyer, after being out in the field for a few houses, has a sense of market value in any kind of a market. So if they come up and you, as the agent, know it's over market value, the buyers, they've seen other houses. They'll sense the same thing, because the trap for a seller is they're kind of not to blame. It's counterintuitive. They're thinking that, well, we can always negotiate down. And no, you don't. Not from too high.
Yeah.
Not from too high.
And there are some circumstances. I showed a house. I wrote up an offer this week on a house in the beach area, and they had 26 showings in 2 days, and they had 12 offers. And my offer was good, and it was creative as well. My buyer was very creative, and unfortunately, my buyer didn't get the house, and it was a great offer. However, someone wanted it more and was willing to pay for the premium of being at the beach. And I did speak to the agent, and was definitely a higher dollar amount that got the offer.
And it included firstborn child, didn't it?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
But,
hey, other agents, try that.
Mm-hmm. But there, agents can be creative right now too. One of the things that this person offered was a benefit, would have been a nice benefit for the owners to continue to use their house for a few summers. So, that was something that the buyer hoped would be intriguing to the person, but it wasn't intriguing enough as money was. So, anyway, the other question we have is from Timmy. He's a first-time home buyer who's tired of losing out on highest and best. Now, there are 2 houses on the market, and he likes both of them. And they're both going on highest and best for the same day. So he told his agent that he wanted to put an offer on both, just to hedge his bets. She said that was not a good idea. And he wants to know, should he look for a better agent?
Totally.
Absolutely not. No, you can't put offers on 2 houses at the same time.
And we'll disclaim now that we're not attorneys, because I have a tie and jacket on.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you an attorney. But what can happen is if both offers are signed by the sellers, you are now under contract on 2 houses.
Yeah.
Well, let's clarify that. When you make an offer to purchase and you use a purchase and sales agreement, which is common here and may not be common in Idaho. Do I get another $1?
Totally. Hold on a second here.
Then the seller can actually sign the contract and you're under contract. Yeah. If you use a 1-page offer where you basically put out the terms and the seller signs that, then you still have to go into a purchase and sales agreement. So there is the option there. But
I don't
it
get
would not be advisable to not put in a purchase and sales agreement in this market because you want them to accept your offer and get it signed.
I don't want to sound holier than thou, like I've ever done that, but you'd want to look at your agent twice for saying, yeah, let's do that. Because as agents, we're working in a relatively small community of mostly professionals, and you wouldn't do that kind of thing because it just wouldn't be done.
Well,
So
yeah,
your agents
it's kind of shady, but it's
yeah.
kind of shady. But the bottom line is you don't want your client to end up on the line for two houses.
Right.
So your agent is giving you good advice.
That's right.
Yeah. So we also have a question. There's a for sale by owner on my street. Do I have to leave my agent out of it? The sign on the lawn says principals only. So this got to be an older person who knows what principals only mean, because we don't really say that anymore. You didn't write that question. That came from a viewer.
No, but I heard that term and we had a discussion over the use of the word principals only, because back in the day, that was it was not uncommon to see for sale by owners do that kind of thing because they were afraid to have agents come up and try to turn it
Take
into
a commission.
That kind of stuff. And so they were getting overly fancy. Usually those kinds of sellers would be easy sales because they were betting hugely on knowing more than the agent, which is always a bad bet for a seller.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of laws that you have to follow that you don't, the average person doesn't even know.
Well, we do it for a living.
Yep.
I mean, geez.
We're educated.
If somebody said, hey, Clark,
and experience.
if they said build a nuclear submarine, I probably wouldn't try because,
I wouldn't even do plumbing. Never mind
a
whole submarine.
No.
So, yes, you can go through your agent. Your agent can contact the owner and see if he's willing or she's willing to work with you and pay a commission. Oftentimes they'll say no. You can still use your agent. This agent is representing you, and you can offer to pay your agent a commission. That is not unheard of. There are many places where buyers are paying their agents a commission. So here it's kind of been that the seller is,
And there's a number of workarounds that
Yes.
I've used, as I know you have. In certain situations, you can use what amounts to a one-time
listing agreement for one client. Yes.
And I've actually had good luck working with sellers because it's a matter of coming up and saying, hey, look, sure, you don't want to list with me. All right. But I've got this buyer, and what you do with that form is you specify that person, and the argument is very simple. Okay, if they buy it, you pay me. If they don't buy it, have a nice life.
Right, exactly. But you end up doing the work for the buyer and the seller in those circumstances. So it is to their benefit. I mean, there are disclosures that have to be filled out. There are, people think that they don't need a realtor. They also think they don't need a closing attorney or a title company or those kind of things. So, having an agent that knows what is needed to get you to closing is important. So if you're working with a buyer's agent, you absolutely. And I just want to add something here. So many of my clients will say, I went to this open house because I didn't want to bother you. This is our job. You are not bothering me.
Yeah, really.
And, I would like to know what you're looking at and be there with you to help you. I know Clark feels the same way. We answer our phones or we respond to our text messages or our voicemails. If I can't get to the phone the minute you call me, I will get back to you shortly. So in most cases, your agent wants you to bother them. The other question I hear all the time from family and friends and former clients, is it okay if I give your number to somebody I know who's looking for a house? Yes, please give them my cell number. Gone are the days where we're paying extra for using our phones. We want you to give our number out. We want you to tell them how great we were, how much we helped you, and to call us or text us. We want that.
It's a true statement.
Whoops. So,
we can jump to this last. I like the last question.
Okay, let's jump to the last one. I saw on a real estate blog written by someone who said they started writing it because they thought the typical real estate agent was too self-absorbent. Anyway, they said there's a thing that experienced agents insist is true, which is first offer is the best offer. How can that be true if that's even a thing?
Yeah. And I might argue, if we had more time, for that still being true, allowing for the fact that what you've said, multiple offers, highest and best and all. But that notion of first offer, best offer is still true and certainly applies to all other forms of market conditions, buyers markets, in between balance markets. And it has to do with urgency, which goes to the heart of this market we're in right now. This market is being driven not so much by supply as much as by urgency.
Yeah.
People are getting it into their heads that if they don't buy a house, they'll never buy a house. And that may or may not be true, but it's their urgency. And so the idea of the first offer in normal conditions, that person is there first for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They've been watching the market and they want to buy it. And then after that, and
We really do often find that, especially not in this market. I have had so many people say to me, so many sellers say to me, I should have taken that first offer, because then once the house sits there, it's offers wane. They just don't
loses
happen.
the urgency in the minds of the buyers.
Exactly. When stuff is on the market for a long time.
And a lot of things are, and since I seem to like the phrase counterintuitive tonight,
Yes, you do.
that I've often heard, as you have, I'm sure,
You've said that a lot tonight too.
a comment. Let's take a show of hands here. It's simply yes or no. Yes, Clark is being creative and asking proper questions, or no, Denise is wrong. The idea of, well, if I get one offer this week, I'll wait and I'll get two offers next week, and on like that. I've heard that in different markets. You tend to get that. And it seems to make sense, except it's not true for that urgency.
It's scary for sellers, though, when you get an offer right away in a traditional market. It really is scary for sellers because their first thought is, did I underprice? And, so that is a little bit scary. But it also is possible it's just the right buyer at the right time. So,
Alex is in the house.
Hi, Alex.
Hey.
So we collected some stats on our local area. This is just on the South County area. So I think they're pretty telling on the current market. So why don't you tell us about them, Clark, before we go off the air?
How much time do I have?
You have about 2.5 minutes.
Oh, I can do that standing on my head.
Mhm.
Actually, it's you've heard us talk over the weeks, limited supply, lower than ever seen before. And for those outside the area, Hopkinton is one town in South County that is a rural community. And the normal kinds of numbers would have been, what do you figure, 35, 45 houses for sale. Currently, there are 3 houses for sale in the entire town.
In the entire town of Hopkinton, which is a big rural area. And right now, Hopkinton is part of the Charahoe School District, which is seeing a lot of people wanting to move into it. So 3 houses total for sale in the entire town of Hopkinton is nothing.
But the coolest one is Westerly, which Westerly, for anybody in Idaho, is a coastal community, very high end. Watch Hill, you've heard of, Weekapaug, etc. So you've got some very high priced properties. However,
but we do have some lower, median income.
We have people,
we have regular people who live here.
You live here.
I live here.
Well, you said regular people.
No. All right.
16 listings in the entire town. Now, if we went back to 10 years ago, that number would be 150. Would be, hey, that's a good low supply.
Yeah.
But the funny part, what we find as realtors, not funny, haha. Of those 16 listings, the average price is 2.4, and the median is 2.1, which is like, holy smoke. In fact, out of the 16, four properties are under $1 million.
4 properties under $1 million in Westerly right now.
And so that's the kind of market we're seeing. And I'm assuming Alex is up in Maine, and
I have buyers. I have so many buyers looking to be in this area, and that just prices them right out of the market.
The ocean will tend to do that, and we're seeing that. Well, that produces the millionth ones, but that doesn't account for the only 4 properties under $1 million.
And there's 4 properties under $1 million, but the cheapest one is
Yeah.
400 and change.
450, yep.
450. So I mean, even that is high for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's,
And a year ago, I mean, that was probably the median price.
Yeah.
450, 500,000.
that would be healthy for
You
a
know,
community.
We
that-
might have had that spike when Taylor Swift bought a house down
Yeah,
there, but
yeah.
that would have been it. So
That's so it's a very interesting market in that regard, very dynamic, and we'll be watching for any shifts. We'll save that for another show.
right. But if you have any questions about the market in your area or in our area, please don't hesitate to message us. Our email and phone numbers are at the bottom of the page there. Also, you can comment on Facebook or on
The other thing,
YouTube. Sorry. Again, don't forget to subscribe because I promise you your life's desire is
No,
going to
you got a
knock on
dollar
your
for
door. And also check us out on Instagram where Clark posts where in South County are we? And it's pretty interesting to see if you can figure out where they are.
yeah, we do
There
that
we
twice
are.
a week on Thursdays and Sundays.
And don't forget, next week we're back to Wednesday at
Oh,
5:30.
glad you
Because
said
in
that.
case you thought today was Wednesday, it's not. It's Thursday. But next week we're back on Wednesday at 5:30.
Okay, we will say goodbye.
Okay, ta-ta. Oh, I
Bye.
did it again. I said ta-ta again.